What is going on, Dodger fans? Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. We are live after Game 2 of the National League Division Series, where the Los Angeles Dodgers sweep the Phillies in Citizens Bank Park. Now they have a chance to take this thing back to Dodger Stadium and close it out, potentially in a real sweep. Your Los Angeles Dodgers barely hang on in a thrilling game against the Phillies on Monday evening with a final score of 4-3. At one point, the Dodgers were leading 4-0, and then the Philadelphia Phillies fought back. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth. They had the go-ahead run at the plate. It got dicey. We're going to dive into all that. But the Dodgers, at the end of the day, took both games, in my opinion, at the most difficult ballpark to play in this season. That's Citizens Bank Park. Let me kick it over to Jake Reiner. Jake, how you feeling?
I watched the game at a bar, and that last out where Tommy Edman basically short-armed the ball to Freddie Freeman, and he made an impossible pick to essentially save the game at that point. It took me, I want to say, like 15, 20 minutes just sitting there, collecting myself, just thinking about how much of a disaster that would have been had Freddie Freeman missed that ball. Because if they tie the game there, I think the Phillies end up winning that game just with all the momentum. And you talk about the crowd, Citizen Bank Ballpark. It's bedlam there in the playoffs. And to go into that environment and win 2 games the way the Dodgers did, Game 1, a huge comeback, and in this one, they hold on to a narrow 1-run lead, something they couldn't do all season. And they do it in the biggest moment to go up 2-0, because I would have been happy with a split going back to LA. I think that's what we were all expecting, is like, can we just get 1? And we got 2. And now we go back to LA with Yamamoto on the mound for Wednesday. 2 games at Dodger Stadium. They may not need both. They may just need just the 1 with Yamamoto going. You couldn't ask for anything better. The Dodgers sweeping the Phillies and just waiting for the Cubs and Brewers just to beat each other to death and awaiting an NLCS. And to me, that is just the sweetest spot to be in. But holy hell, there is a lot to talk about with this game 2 and what happened. Decisions on both sides. The Dodgers, the Phillies, Rob Thompson versus Dave Roberts. There's so many things to talk about. Miguel Rojas diving for third base to get an out there. The wheel play in the 9th inning to basically take away the tying run at third base off the bunt. So many things to talk about, Kevin, but thank God they got that done. That was hairy in the 9th. Took years off my life.
Player of the game, I don't think there's any question about it, has to be Blake Snell. Delivered yet again for the Dodgers in the playoffs. He was unreal tonight. He went 6 innings through 99 pitches, allowed just 1 hit, had 9 strikeouts. Nobody could touch his fastball. Nobody could touch his slider. The insane ability to just locate his pitches in the zone when he needed to get those whiffs. He had 23 whiffs tonight. Absolutely unreal stuff. His called strikes plus whiffs percentage was 37. That was almost in line with what Shohei Ohtani did just the other night. In 2 games now, the Dodgers have just completely owned the top 2 Phillies hitters, which are Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. They are a combined 1 for 14 so far in this series with 8 strikeouts. The Philadelphia Phillies as a whole have been a mess in the playoffs, and we'll talk about more about that in a few minutes. But big picture here, the Phillies as a franchise are 0-8 in series when they lose game 1 of any playoff series. Well, now they're down 0-2, and the Dodgers are in the driver's seat with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, as Jake mentioned, taking the mound in game 3 at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, Blake Snell was phenomenal. He was every bit as dominant as we've seen him in the regular season, specifically the second half. and he pitched like an ace. And the Dodgers have so many aces, but he really, truly pitched like an ace tonight, especially matching Jesus Luzardo, who for the majority of the game had the Dodgers just guessing, and he was dominating them. And I was a little bit frustrated with the approach, honestly, for Luzardo. They were very aggressive the entire time and swinging at first pitches, and he had a lot of quick innings, a lot of 6, 7, 8, 9 pitch innings. And that was really frustrating to me, but they eventually got to them. And that was the task for Blake Snell, was could he keep the Phillies at bay until the offense eventually woke up? And they did their job, and they put up 4 runs. And it felt like, okay, the Dodgers were going to coast to the end. But of course, that can never be the case, because this Dodgers bullpen is always an adventure. And that's something I want to talk to you about, Kevin, because the Dodgers bullpen is something that we know has been their Achilles heel all year. And they've changed a lot of what they would normally do here in the postseason so that they could give themselves a better shot to win. And they kind of went away from that a little bit by going traditionally with Treinen in the 9th, who hasn't been good all year, and it didn't work. And so there are a lot of things that I would question here tonight about what Dave Roberts did, but the Dodgers got away with one. They truly did. They got away with one tonight. And that's all that really matters, right? It's a win is a win.
Appreciate everyone tuning in to the live stream. Hit that like button for us. And if you have questions for Jake or myself, we're more than happy to answer questions you guys have. I'm not done talking about Blake Snell before we get to that dirty bullpen. I want to just hammer home the fact that there was a huge debate in this offseason. Do you go Max Fried, the hometown local kid, or do you go with Blake Snell, who's pitched for multiple division rivals, has owned the Dodgers in the past? Well, if you had gone with the Max Fried route, you'd be looking at the pitcher with the highest playoff ERA of all time, with a minimum of 75 innings thrown. He just got lit up yet again by the Toronto Blue Jays a day ago. On the flip side, if you're like me, who hammered home the fact that Blake Snell's the best pitcher on the board this offseason, well, you'd be rewarded right now, because in 2 starts for the Dodgers in October, or the playoffs, I guess, Blake Snell has 18 strikeouts across 13 innings thrown, a 138 playoff ERA, and a .77 whip, and a career postseason ERA of 292. How do you like them apples?
And not to mention, too, his career numbers in the postseason. Overall, he's 6-3 with a 2.92 ERA. So it just made all the sense in the world, plus his durability. Unfortunately, he had to hit the injured list this year, but for the most part, his durability is something that that is one of his best qualities, is the fact that he's available. And he is just so tough on the mound. And Dave Roberts just kind of lets him go. I mean, it is someone that Dave Roberts can trust. And especially with a shaky bullpen, to be able to trust these starting pitchers like Dave has done. Blake Snell just coming through once again, just dominating these Phillies. And even honestly, because you're going to get some traffic with Blake Snell. He's going to walk some guys, but he gets even tougher, honestly, with runners on base. And so I'm never truly worried that much when he, walks a guy here and there, because he's even better when the going gets tough.
There's another crazy stat about Blake Snell as well. The Dodgers have landed a pitcher that just manages to get strikeouts in October. I'm trying to scroll through the MLB feed, but I think essentially what the stat was is Blake Snell has 4 career postseason starts with 9+ strikeouts and 2 or few hits allowed. That's the most by any pitcher in MLB history. Not even Sandy Koufax did that. Kershaw, Randy Johnson, none of them have done that except Blake Snell. So this is a guy that can not only strike everyone out like crazy, but when he's on his game, he doesn't allow hits. So the Dodgers have a massive weapon in their rotation. This is the most powerful 1 through 4 postseason rotation I've ever seen the Dodgers roll out there. And so far, they're proving that point by being 4-0 in the playoffs.
You could make the argument, and I have certainly made this argument, that the Dodgers kind of underperformed during the regular season. And I always thought that at some point, if they were to put it together with their starting pitching, as elite as it is, and their offense, which is as elite as any offense in the majors is, that they could win another title. And that is what they're doing right now, because they are facing, I think, probably their toughest opponent. As if we looked at the playoff landscape and you saw this Phillies matchup looming after the Dodgers completely dispatched the Reds, we were saying this is going to be the series. And to go into their ballpark and win 2 games just shows you how much better of an organization the Dodgers are than anybody else. It's just about showing up on the field, and they are. And that was what I was hoping for the entire year. It's like, yeah, they were blowing games left and right. They, even in the first half, they would have to come back and win games because their starting pitching was terrible in the first half. Their bullpen was kind of bad all year. And then in the second half, their starting pitchers got healthy and really started dominating. And that's what we were all hoping for, was that they would put it together. And like we've said, like I've said, they're putting it together at the right time, which is all you really need for this Dodgers organization. You know they're going to make the playoffs. That's a foregone conclusion. But to perform in October, that was going to be the real test, and they're doing it, Kevin.
That they are. Just my quick thoughts on Jesus Luzardo, since you pretty much covered it. It was frustrating for the first half of the game where there were a lot of first pitch swings at Luzardo, and he was so efficient at one point. I think he only needed like 7 or 8 pitches to get 4 outs, and it was like Pages was swinging at the first pitch, Will Smith was swinging at the first pitch. They just weren't making him work, and this was clearly the good Luzardo. This was something that I kind of figured was going to be a factor in this game. This guy is either a Cy Young out there or he gets shelled, but Luzardo brought his game. But then the Dodgers got to him with the Freddie Freeman double to knock him out. And that was the big blow, because the biggest strategy for the Dodgers coming into this series was get to that Phillies bullpen ASAP. And so far through 2 games, the Phillies bullpen has been a pure disaster out there. Tonight, Kirk Kring blew it. Strom gave up a hit to Ohtani. That Ohtani base hit to make it 4-0 at that point in the game turned out to be a huge insurance run. So we're lucky that we got that across the board. But I am ready to talk about this Dodgers bullpen now.
Yeah, because it is an adventure. The Dodgers had the plan perfect, right? They had Snell out there. Snell goes 6 innings. Then you bring in Emmett Sheehan, who looked a lot sharper than he did in the Red Series. He did give up a run, but for the most part was pretty dominant. He was able to get Schwarber and Harper, and looked like they were going to just ride him to the end. And I thought in real time, I was thinking, let's just have Emmett go out there. And if he gets into trouble, then you bring in someone else. I just feel like a lot of the times when you, especially in the playoffs, when you go to that bullpen, it's like a Russian roulette. You just don't know what you're going to get when a guy comes out there, even if it's a guy you've historically trusted like Blake Treinen. But given Treinen's track record this season, even though he's looked a little better in the postseason up until tonight, I just feel like we should have just stuck with Sheehan. And if you didn't want to go with Sheehan, then go with Roki Sasaki. Those are the only 2 options in my mind that they should have done. And they veered away from that. And I just felt like they were, I don't know, trying to sneak one past the Phillies, and Treinen just didn't have it tonight, unfortunately. And it almost cost them.
Blake Treinen hasn't had it most nights this season. Dave Roberts got way too cute there. I honestly don't know what he was thinking by going to Blake Treinen in a save opportunity situation. I think Emmett Sheehan, that's probably the second safest outcome to have gone with. That would have made the second most sense to me. So I wouldn't have hated it if they had just stuck with him to ride it out near the end. He was the easiest candidate to bet on for a bounce back. Like, don't let that one outing with the Reds fool you into thinking that Emmett Sheehan doesn't have it. Emmett Sheehan is a dog out there, and he proved it tonight. He kept everybody in check for the most part. He struck out Kyle Schwarber. He was on his A game. So I still have full trust in Emmett Sheehan. But the right move, I think the most optimal outcome would have been just go to Roki Sasaki. If you feel like you need to go with someone in the ninth inning, why would you not hand the ball right back to Roki Sasaki, who has been nothing but electric since being called back up and inserting himself into the Dodgers bullpen? Jeff Passan wrote a really great and detailed article that dropped this morning about the whole resurgence into Roki Sasaki's renaissance with the Dodgers as a reliever. And he basically just retweaked all his mechanics, fell under the spell that Rob Hill, who's one of the pitching development guys, was preaching to him. So he completely bought into that notion. And Sasaki looks like the guy that we all had really been pounding our fist for the Dodgers to sign out of Japan. Again, throwing 100-mile-per-hour gas. And fortunately, the Dodgers escaped what could have been a major catastrophe, because on the other side, Trey Turner was the final out, who, in my opinion, is one of the least clutch players in all of Major League Baseball history. Like, if there's a guy up there with who's the last out, like, Trey Turner is someone I'm comfortable with being on the other side, because that guy's not clutch at all. And honestly, he kind of feels like a blur in a Dodgers uniform at this point. Like, he's kind of forgettable. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of agree with you on that one. I was watching the game with a buddy of mine, shout out Jacob Moss, and he kind of said, I'm almost glad that Treinen had the outing that he had, just so that we all know that maybe this is someone we're not going to be able to trust in the playoffs in this situation, in a either high leverage or closing spot, because really the only traditional reliever you can trust at this point is Alex Vesia. And Vesia did his job pretty much. I mean, he did give up a hit to Bader, but he pretty much did his job once again. And that is really the only traditional reliever they can trust at this point. The Dodgers have a plethora of starting pitching that has shown can be brought out of the bullpen. Snell in game one was great. They brought in Sheehan tonight. Roki Sasaki has been great every time he's come out of the bullpen. The Dodgers just need to stick with this. Just don't veer away from this ever again. Like, I don't want to see any of our traditional relievers out there, because it just is too, the margin for error is just too small in these spots to just play around with it. You've seen a big sample size of failure this year with the bullpen. You got to just stick with what has worked so far. And that is just piggyback these starting pitchers who have been terrific with more starting pitching. Just do that and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, especially going with Blake Treinen, that's just pure negligence. That is almost as bad as going with Tanner Scott. I don't care what Blake Treinen has done in the past. Like, if they had gone with Treinen in the 7th inning, I can live with that, because it gives you time to recover if he were to have a hiccup. But to go to Blake Treinen in the 9th inning, I don't care who your name is. I don't care if you're Mariano Rivera. If your 2025 regular season stats show me that you're 2-7 with a 5.40 ERA and a whip of nearly 2, I don't care what the name is. You cannot go with that in the 9th inning in what I already said earlier is the toughest stadium to play in as an away team. They completely brought the Phillies crowd back into it. And if they had lost this game tonight, I'm not going to say they're going to lose the series, but in all likelihood, it probably goes back to a game 5 in Philadelphia. And you do not want that by any means of the matters or any stretch. So yeah, a 2-0 lead is huge right now.
You lose tonight, the Phillies are right back in this series. And that is something that would have just broken me, because how many times have we seen a Dodgers team play the Phillies in the playoffs where they have a lead and it's like, okay, if they can just get this win, they'll be great. And then they blow it. And then that's the series. I mean, I just had so much PTSD in that moment, even up until the end when I saw the ground ball go to Tommy Edman, and I was ecstatic that happened. And then he short arms it to Freeman, and I'm like, oh no. And of course, thank God for Freddie Freeman being the Gold Glove first baseman that he is, but that was a tough pick for him. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was scary. I mean, that you hold your breath. And like I said earlier, like it took me a few minutes to recover just thinking about how bad that could have gone.
Yeah, we almost had another Jonathan Broxton moment that was super close to shades of Jimmy Rollins walking us off with a roped double. And I think one of the biggest plays tonight had to have been the base running blunder, I think, on Nick Castellanos. Like, what a heads up, high IQ defensive play by the Dodgers to get him tagged out at third base. Because if Nick Castellanos was still standing at second base, I believe it would have been Harrison Bader probably drives him in to tie the game. But because they got Castellanos thrown out and tagged at third base, that was a turning point.
I don't think that necessarily was bad base running because he knows that the bunt is on. Bryson Stott's up there to bunt. As soon as they brought in Vesia, that was the foregone conclusion, is that Bryson Stott was going to bunt because Rob Thompson went to Stott over Edmundo Sosa to face Blake Treinen. And to me, Kevin, I think the mistake there was pinch hitting Bryson Stott because Rob Thompson has to know what?
Leaving Nick Castellanos in the game to be the base runner.
I was going to say that too. So first of all, the idea that they wanted to go with the matchup, right? They wanted Bryson Stott to face Blake Treinen, which I completely understand. But Rob Thompson had to know that Dave Roberts was going to counter with Vesia. I mean, he was warming up the entire time. So in my opinion, I would have let Edmundo Sosa hit against Blake Treinen. Treinen did not have it. And Roberts would not have gone to Vesia at that point. So he would have left Treinen in there. Who knows what would have happened? Secondly, I agree with you. They definitely should have pinch ran for Castellanos. He's so slow. But to me, it wasn't a base running blunder in the sense that he knew that Bryson Stott was going to bunt. So he was going on contact. He needed to make it to third. That was the whole point of the sacrifice bunt. The genius, though, if you listen to Max Muncy's post-game interview, Kevin, the genius was Mookie Betts. Because when they all met on the mound and Dave Roberts was bringing in Vesia, Mookie Betts was saying, we have to do the wheel play. And according to Max Muncy, they don't even practice that play because the pitcher doesn't hit in the National League anymore. And there are very few instances where the defense knows someone is going to bunt. So the wheel play doesn't really come into effect that often. But Mookie Betts was like, we need to cut this run off. We need to make sure that guy does not get to third. And it was executed to perfection. Max Muncy charged the bunt. He fielded it and made a perfect throw to Mookie Betts covering third. Betts made a great tag. Castellanos knocked him over. But that was just textbook. And then, of course, the next batter, Harrison Bader, hits a single, and that run doesn't score because there was a man on first with one out instead of that run coming in from third. It was beautiful, beautiful baseball.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I thought Rob Thompson was a good manager, and maybe that still is the case. But in these two games, I could not be more underwhelmed by a manager Aaron Boone is up there for people that have a high profile reputation. But Rob Thompson is right there, and I don't know what's going to happen if the Phillies go on to lose the series. I feel like his job could be in jeopardy, but my God, in these two games, Thompson has been completely outclassed by Dave Roberts because we just went in depth about this whole Castellanos, the bunt. Why are you having Castellanos as your pinch runner in a clear sack bunt situation? But even in game one, when he went to Matt Strahm to face Teoscar Hernandez, just complete blunders left and right. The bullpen management as a whole has been just terrible. I feel like by Thompson, I didn't understand not going to Ranger Suarez at least in game one. I don't know what this guy's doing. The lineup constructions seem kind of stupid as well. But the Dodgers are taking complete advantage, and I couldn't be more happy.
I mean, the starting pitching it hasn't been that bad for the Phillies. I mean, Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo were pretty good. I mean, the problem is that they're facing even better pitching on the other side. The Phillies can't really score. And so that's the big issue. But
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Rob Thompson, I believe, was it Rob Thompson that took over for Gabe Kapler? If I remember
No,
a couple seasons ago, who was managing
Joe
before that?
Girardi.
Joe Girardi. Wow. And Rob Thompson kind of caught lightning in a bottle. I
Yeah.
remember that season, and it was like that was the rest was history. But yeah,
Yeah. Your
some of
boy
these
Kapler was with the Giants.
yeah. That was just he's just not been good. I mean, he's been outmanaged. Tonight Dave Roberts almost blew it.
Yeah.
But he overall Rob Thompson has been outmanaged by Dave Roberts.
Yeah, because it was 2022, and the Phillies were a noticeable amount of games under 500, and they fired Joe Girardi mid-season. Thompson took over, and they got scorching hot wild card team, and then made it to the World Series. And we thought that'd be it, and he'd have more success. But the Phillies in the playoffs have just been in a tailspin. I think they're at home. They're 1-5 in their last 6 playoff games at Citizens Bank Park. So to be that atrocious in your home stadium, you gotta point the finger somewhere. They're 1-7 in their last 8 playoff games. They don't hit for power anymore. Harper's a non-factor. Schwarber's been a non-factor. The bullpen has been atrocious. They're in a tailspin. This team, I thought was gonna, honestly, I thought they beat the Dodgers, but I am just happily surprised how strong the Dodgers have looked against them.
Here's the big difference between the Phillies and the Dodgers offense-wise is that if Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper, and maybe even Real Muto, add that guy in there, if those guys aren't hitting, they're not scoring. And the Dodgers, it's like Ohtani, until he knocked in a run tonight, has looked terrible at the plate in these first 2 games. Mookie Betts has been kind of a non-factor. Freddie Freeman, a little bit more tonight, but the Dodgers have gotten production from Kike Hernandez and Tommy Edman, and Teo is one of their guys too. But it's like the rest of the lineup for the Dodgers just is so much better than the rest of the lineup for the Phillies. I mean, Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh and all these guys, Edmundo Sosa. These guys aren't hitting, and Castellanos, even before tonight, hasn't looked great. I mean, even that swing that he put on that ball was not great. I mean, he just kind of stuck his bat out there. If those main guys aren't hitting, they're not scoring, and so it's just more of the same from the Phillies. They gotta if they lose this series to the Dodgers, they've got to kind of maybe blow some things up and rethink their whole roster here.
I know Will Smith had the big 2-run base hit that was massive. Obviously, Ohtani had the 4th run, and then Kike Hernandez had the little nibbler to get Teoscar Hernandez in at home. That was the 1st run. But this is probably a hot take. My positional player of the game, I'm going with Freddie Freeman, because I feel like that double to knock Luzardo out of the game forced Thompson to make the quick hook, and that really unraveled for Philadelphia. And that pick to get the final out, because Edman just bounced the ball in the dirt, and that was a near disaster right there. But the ability by Freddie Freeman to pick that up, secure it in his glove, and record that final out, that was huge. So props to Freeman.
And that pick too, for people that may have not ever played first base. And again, I have not played first base at a high level, but I have in the levels that I've played. I mean, that's an in-between hop. And that's the toughest hop to be able to judge, because you don't know how high the ball is going to bounce. You don't know where it's going to bounce. And so it's a reactionary type of pick, as opposed to one that is low at your glove and you kind of just can scoop it. This was a very difficult pick to make, and only a few first basemen in Major League Baseball can do that. Of course, the Dodgers have one of the best and a future Hall of Famer at that position. And I agree with you. That knock by Freddie Freeman was big. Just like in the first game, Kike Hernandez had a big knock to basically get the Dodgers off the schneid. They were not doing anything up until that point. Similarly, tonight, it took a while for the offense to wake up.
Took a long while, but it was nice to play in a game for once where the Dodgers never trailed, because I feel like that has just been their theme for the entire 2025 season, coming back from behind, an enormous amount of comeback wins, falling behind early in games. Not tonight. Blake Snell, credit to him, kept the Dodgers in that scoreless pitcher's duel with Luzardo. And then Freddie Freeman had the big double, and then they dropped 4 runs in the 7th inning. I remember in the past, like series against the Cardinals, where the 7th inning seemed to be our enemy. Tonight, the 7th inning was our friend. Dodgers got all their runs and held on with the 4-3 victory. Any other takeaways you want to cover from game one or tonight?
Yes. So I'm just seeing this now on X. Jack Harris, who's the beat writer for the Dodgers for the LA Times, he asked, Dave Roberts about why he went to Blake Treinen and not Roki Sasaki. And Dave Roberts said, I thought about it. He hasn't gone 2 out of 3 much at all. Talking about Sasaki, just figuring the run right there. Blake's pitched some of the biggest outs innings in the postseason for us and felt really confident right there, and with Vesia behind him if needed. So I didn't want to just kind of, preemptively put him in there. Again, I felt good with who we had with our leverage relievers, a couple of our highest leverage relievers. And fortunately, he was ready when called upon, talking about Sasaki. And I liked him versus Trey, and he got a big out for us. So basically the answer is he went legacy there. He went, Blake Treinen is a guy that's been there for us in the big moments, and he just trusted him. And, I get that. I understand that. But when you have a formula that has worked in the present moment in this postseason, that's what you got to go with. You don't want to dance around and go with Treinen or do something kooky like bringing Kershaw out of nowhere. You got to go with what has been dominant. And Sasaki has been unhittable. And to not go with him with a clean inning, now you're making it even more difficult for Sasaki, bringing him in with runners on base, which he's not really used to. And thank God he got out of that. But I mean, to me, it's like, just go with the guys that have been good. Like, just don't mess around with this.
Seriously. And the luxury that Dave Roberts has had in his favor all playoffs so far is his starters are going 6, maybe 7 innings. So it's not hard to pick the right name out of the hat in a bullpen situation. Again, he got way too cute. Like you said, he was going legacy there. When you have the off days sprinkled in between, I don't care about Roki Sasaki pitching two days in a 3-day span. They got the off day the next day. Even Steven 2415 pointing that out. Like, this is just unfathomable by Dave Roberts. So, like your friend Jacob was talking about, hopefully that was a lesson learned. You cannot afford to have any hiccups in this best of 5 series.
Yeah. That typically in a postseason for the Dodgers, that typically is the end of us. Like that, like those Dave Roberts moments have haunted us in years past. And last season, Dave Roberts was nearly perfect. And this postseason, he's been great. And tonight was almost a complete catastrophe.
So the question comes from MWG, one of our loyal listeners. Are the brooms coming out Wednesday? So that leads me to, let's talk about game 3, because the Philadelphia Phillies have announced their game 3 starter. And I'll be quite frank, this is not who I was expecting to be taking the mound for the Phillies down 0-2. I get that they paid him a massive contract. Historically, he has been their number 2 without a doubt. But Aaron Nola, 5-10 this season, a 6 ERA, a 1.35 WHIP. This is as big of a head scratcher that I can recall a team throwing out there in an elimination game. This is up there with Lance Lynn as the bad of the bad. I mean, I'll take it. Like, this is kind of handing things on a silver platter at things, but I'll dive into some of these Aaron Nola numbers in a bit. But I just want to throw that out there and get people's reactions to Aaron Nola being their guy to save the season.
The only thing I can think of is they want the Dodgers to stack up their left-handed hitters in the lineup and they want Muncy in there, and they want, Edman swinging from the left side, and maybe I don't know who else they would even put in there. I mean, that's really only the only real difference is there. They're I guess Rortvet, is starting. Maybe Smith starts. I don't
I
know.
don't think that matters. Yeah, I think
So
it's
here's the thing. So let's say for the sake of argument that that's their thought. It just doesn't make very much sense to do that, because the Dodgers have struggled this so far in this series against left-handed starters. And to me, why wouldn't you just go with Ranger Suarez, who has been pretty good in the postseason for them in the years past, from what I remember? To me, I just don't understand why you would start Nola and piggyback with Suarez. Just go with Suarez. Like, I don't know why they would even mess around with that, because Aaron Nola, the Dodgers could easily put up 3 to 4, 5, maybe even 5 runs, let's say, in the first inning, and then the game's over. So what with Yamamoto on the mound?
And who leads off for the Dodgers? Shohei Ohtani. So you're telling me you want Aaron Nola to get a matchup with Shohei Ohtani right out of the gate? And they've got Freddie Freeman, 2 batters behind him as well. And Aaron Nola has a 7 ERA on the road this season. So he's been even worse than his overall season ERA. He has just been a complete gas can out there. I'll have to look up his career stats at Dodger Stadium, but at a quick glance, Mookie Betts is 9 for 23, 391 batting average with 2 home runs against Aaron Nola. I would not start Tommy Edman because he's 1 for 20, but Freddie Freeman's had some success. He's only hitting 237, but he's got 2 home runs, 13 RBIs. Kike Hernandez has 3 career home runs against Nola with a 1,500 OPS. Teoscar Hernandez has taken Nola deep. Other than that, nobody else has really seen Nola that great, including Ohtani. But Miguel Rojas is randomly hitting 300 against Nola as well. Like people are saying in the chat, like Anna Pineda, it's insane to not go with Ranger Suarez just to start the game.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, who are they trying to neutralize? I mean, I guess Max Muncy. Like, you trying to get Max Muncy to start and then bringing in Ranger Suarez? I just don't understand. I don't get it, especially. And you make a great point. It's like Shohei Ohtani's been leading, is leading off, obviously, and he has not looked good against the 2 Phillies hard throwing lefty starting pitchers. And now you've got another one in Ranger Suarez. Why wouldn't you just stick with that? I don't get it. But here's the thing. They could throw Ranger Suarez. They could throw Aaron Nola. Like, I don't care. I think this is going to be a sweep. I mean, with Yamamoto pitching as well as he's been pitching, all the Dodgers need to do is put up a couple of runs on Nola or Suarez, and the ball game is over, and so is the series. Like, I just don't see Yamamoto, not dominating this Phillies lineup.
And you know what's interesting about Ranger Suarez? He's an unrestricted free agent when this season ends. So they might have just burned a bridge right there by not giving the ball to Ranger Suarez with their season hanging in the balance. Like, it kind of reminds me of the Garrett Cole in Houston situation where you've got one of your best arms available and they go away from them. So I feel like this is going to potentially rub Suarez the really wrong way, and they might lose him altogether in free agency. And so Aaron Nola at Dodger Stadium, he's got a pretty large sample size, 71 career innings at Dodger Stadium, but his ballpark ERA is, I just fumbled that. That was against the Dodgers in his career, but 376 ERA at Dodger Stadium, 26 innings thrown. So not terrible, pretty solid. But I mean, at the end of the day, he has a 7 ERA on the road this season. I just don't get the gamesmanship here at all. I was trying to find Ranger Suarez's career stats at Dodger Stadium just to kind of get a quick breakdown. But I'll let you speak for a minute as I'm scrolling.
The Dodgers need to end this series at Dodger Stadium. I don't want to see a Phillies team get one win here, because this team is not, I mean, Max Muncy said it in his post game. Like, they're not going to just lay down for the Dodgers. This is a tough team. This is a team that's going to fight to the very last out. And so I just feel like the Dodgers have the Phillies right where they want them. Let's just finish this. Finish it at home. Make it 3 games. Let's just sit back and relax and watch the Cubs and Brewers and figure out who we're going to play next. That needs to be the mentality here.
Yeah, Ranger Suarez has about a mid-4 ERA at Dodger Stadium across about 21 innings thrown. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the ball's in the Dodgers' court. You're up 2-0 in a best-of-5 series, and you've got your best pitcher on the mound to close this out. Like, you cannot write a script any better right now for the Dodgers. The fact that you've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto lined up to face the Philadelphia Phillies against a guy in Aaron Nola. If I'm the Dodgers, put your foot on the jugular, end this thing. Let's not even get cute, and let's just enjoy the amount of days off. And I think there'd be enough days off where the Dodgers can essentially reset their rotation, with the exception of Yamamoto. So whether they want to go Ohtani, Snell, Glass now game 1, they have plenty of options. I want to just quickly shout out the chat to give you guys another opportunity to drop questions for us. If you haven't hit the like button yet, hit that like and subscribe button. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear your guys' questions.
Do you think we see Clayton Kershaw in this series in game 3? I know it depends on what happens in the game, but do you think that Dave goes to Kershaw at Dodger Stadium?
My guess, and I'm hoping this is the mindset, Clayton Kershaw needs to stick as a low leverage reliever. Do not force the envelope and create more cute narratives by bringing a guy like Clayton Kershaw into high leverage where his stuff just doesn't play in any scenario. Now, if you want to go to Kershaw with to get 1 out, I can see that. If Brandon Marsh is at the dish with 2 outs in the bottom of, or in the top of the 6th or top of the 7th, sure, I guess. But do not bring in Clayton Kershaw in the 8th or 9th inning. You are asking for disaster.
If it's a close game. If the Dodgers are up big, I think they do go to him. Why not?
Sure. It's not low leverage. I mean, that it is low leverage. So
it's low leverage. No. I'm just
sure.
trying to think about all the pitfalls that that could happen that would really hurt us. And I agree. Bringing in Kershaw in a situation that is anything other than low leverage would be malpractice. I mean, similarly with Tanner Scott, there's just a few relievers that should just stay in the bullpen. And I think tonight Treinen became one of those guys. Like, you just cannot trust these guys. They haven't given you a reason to. You have to trust the guys that have and just ride those guys. Vesia, Sasaki, Glass now, Sheehan. Those are the guys you need to be going to. I know that you're obviously not going to see Glass now, because if there's a game 4, that's going to be your game 4 starter, but just stick with the guys that have been good for you and just don't mess around. Just stick to what's worked for you.
Adolf Hipster, did today's win basically secure the World Series title for the Dodgers? Nothing is a secure in the playoffs, but I will say the Dodgers potentially taking down the Philadelphia Phillies is a huge milestone to getting to be the first team to repeat as World Series champions since the 99-2000 Yankees, because the Brewers are tough, and it looks like they're probably going to advance to the NLCS. They just seem to have kind of put it all together in October. But I look at the American League, and honestly, I am not moved by a single team that's left. Like the Seattle Mariners, they don't scare me. The Detroit Tigers, outside of Tarek Skubal, not scared by them at all. The New York Yankees are about to be eliminated, so I don't even think they're worth talking about. And the Toronto Blue Jays, they've got some really strong talent, but Bo Bichette's hurt. Their starting pitching seems a little thin as well. I mean, taking out the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS, that feels like a huge box to check. It'd be like taking out the Padres last season.
Yeah, the Brewers, though, look good. They look really good. And as something that we've talked about going into this postseason, we talked about their offense. You mentioned that you weren't really scared of their offense, but they can play, and they're taking it to the Cubs in this series. So it is going to be another battle. But one thing I know for certain, just like the Phillies have historically owned the Dodgers in the postseason, we've owned the Brewers in the postseason. So I like our chances, even as underdogs, or we're not going to be we're not going to have home field advantage. Like, given even that, I feel confident just with the way this team is playing and just the confidence that this team has. I would take us against any one of these teams. But I do think that the toughest competition is in the National League. Like, once the Dodgers get through the National League, and if they do make it to the World Series, like, I like our chances against any one of those American League teams.
Yeah, perfect analogy that I'm going to throw out right now based off Lean's question. Do you think the Dodgers can go undefeated? Going undefeated is going to be a tall task, but we're starting to look like we're going down a path of the 2001 Lakers, where they just completely rolled through the entire Western Conference. The Sacramento Kings were probably arguably the NBA championship. And then they did drop a game to the 76ers, but after that, they just completely annihilated them. And to win 13 games and go 13-0 in October seems pretty unlikely, but maybe they just drop 1 or 2 games, and I'd be more than happy with that.
I mean, whether they drop 1 or 2 games or go 13 unanswered, I think this is the team we all thought they were. Honestly, like, this is what I envisioned at the beginning of this season when I looked at this team, and I was like, this team is probably one of the greatest teams ever assembled. It's just about playing the games on the field instead of on paper, and they didn't really live up to that hype. They still made the playoffs, they still won the division and all of that stuff, and they steamrolled the Reds, and they're up 2-0 on the Phillies. But that to me is kind of what I envisioned from this team at the very beginning, that they would be this dominant. And boy, what a time to get dominant right now. I mean, it is an incredible feeling to have when you have this momentum and you're seeing the guys play up to their standards.
From Ivy, thoughts on the Brewers? I'll just quickly say they've owned us in the regular season. We went 0-6 against them, so that's certainly a narrative to pay attention to. But their starting pitching, I just don't think it lines up anywhere near with what the Dodgers have to offer. I mean, outside of Freddie Peralta, they're throwing out pretty much the kitchen sink to get those outs. Quintana doesn't scare me. They started Ashby today, not moved by him. Mizorowski's been coming out of the bullpen. They can be beat, in my opinion. And I think now that the Dodgers have their fully healthy rotation, they're going to keep them in check.
I like our chances with the way we're playing now. I think the team that lost all those games to the Brewers, the team that got swept by the Angels in the season series, that's not the team that's playing right now.
Any concerns about the Miguel Rojas injury?
So Miguel Rojas, can we talk about that play? What inning did that play happen in? It was, let me look. While I find that play, give me your thoughts on the injury, because of that he made that tag play and now his hamstring is hurting.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's in a day-to-day situation right now, and I don't think the Dodgers necessarily are going to need Miguel Rojas anyways to close out this series. But yeah, it's one of those things where probably wasn't the best high IQ play by Miguel Rojas, and I definitely had shades of the NLDS last season when he made that blunder against the San Diego Padres. But fortunately, the diving play worked out in his favor this time when he went to third base. And if someone has to get hurt, I guess it's okay. It's him.
It was in the 6th inning. So it was the bottom of the 6th inning, and it was the final out of the play, and it was like a final out of the inning, and it was a foot race between Miguel Rojas and Trey Turner. That's scary. I mean, I was watching that play, and I'm thinking, because there was 2 outs at that point, I'm thinking, just throw the ball to first base. What are we doing? Why are you trying to be a hero and dive for the bag? It ended up working out, but I honestly just hated it. I mean, you got Alec Boehm, who, he doesn't have blinding speed. It was a routine ground ball to third. Just make the play to first. And instead, he tries to be this hero and dive, and he makes the play, and now he's hurt. And look, I love the effort that Miguel Rojas gives. I think that he's been kind of like weirdly like one of our most consistent players this year. And I was calling for them to DFA him back in the beginning of the season. Like I don't know. There's something about me that just doesn't trust him fully. But I mean, it was a big effort play. A lot of people loved it. I hated it. I thought it was a dumb baseball play from that standpoint. So it worked out, but I thought it was ridiculous.
Miguel Rojas went from a guy that, like you called to be DFA, to I think he's probably a lock now to come back next season and have his retirement tour if next year's his last year. I think he's coming back to the Dodgers. He wants to come back. I think the Dodgers want him to come back. Will they bring back Kike Hernandez? If he continues to hit like this in October, I think you got to bring him back as well. So the Dodgers might have the same bench next season.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what Kike does in the regular season. He could hit under 100 for all I care. Why they have him. And I was watching a highlight reel of like all the big Kike moments in the playoffs, and there are a ton of them. But there were a string of plays that of big hits that he got for the Red Sox actually in the playoffs. And I'm thinking, like, after the Red Sox saw all of that, why did they give him away? Like, why even get rid of him? The Dodgers kept Kike Hernandez around because they knew what he could do in the playoffs, and it wasn't about the regular season.
Because the Red Sox weren't going to be in the playoffs. They were in like a huge drought at that point, and Kike was awful statistically in the regular season, and they were close to DFAing him. The Dodgers just called up the Red Sox and said, we'll take him. And the rest is history.
Kevin, he's had nearly every big hit so far this postseason. If you think about it, huge knocks in the Red Series, huge knock in game 1 against the Phillies. He essentially puts the ball in play and knocks in the first run of this game for the Dodgers. Like, he has been unbelievable so far.
Yeah, he would be number 2 for me. I think Teoscar Hernandez is the runaway right now for Dodgers' best hitter this October, just considering he's got 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. And he's redeeming himself for kind of what many considered an underwhelming second season for the Dodgers. But he's my MVP right now.
I think, an underwhelming season from an offensive standpoint and a really underwhelming season defensively. Can we talk about Teo for a second? Because he's a strange player to root for, because one minute you're like screaming at the TV because he's not hustling and he's not cutting a ball off that he clearly should be cutting off in game 1 in that got in the gap. And basically, if he cuts that ball off, who knows what would have happened after that. I mean, Ohtani was kind of in a jam, and that was when the Phillies kind of, scored all their runs in that game. And then tonight, there was a play where the Dodgers were doing nothing against Luzardo, and he hits this little tapper back to the box, and Luzardo bobbles it, and it gets by him. And Teo is just loafing it down the line. I mean, really just not putting in an ounce of effort to get his ass down the line to first base. And to me, that just was so incredibly maddening. But then you fast forward to the inning where Kike Hernandez hits a little dribbler and there's a play at the plate and and Teo is like hustling on his ass, gets to the plate, is able to score, and he's safe. And then you fast forward to later in the game where he hits a single and tries to turn a single into a double, gets thrown out. I mean, he's a maddening player sometimes to watch. I mean, he does come through, and that's his saving grace, is that he is clutch. He had a big home run in game 1, and I love him as a player. But man, is he maddening. Like I don't understand it sometimes. Like, do you feel like it's an effort thing with him sometimes when he's just not running hard? Like, what is it?
Yes. Especially defensively. I don't know. That's just a him thing, unfortunately.
I don't get it.
That play in game 1 where JT Realmuto hit a double and it roped into a triple, and Realmuto ended up on third, and an extra run scored because of that. That was just maddening. I went into great infuriating depth a couple nights ago about that. But last call for questions, and we'll get to our final thoughts in there. So first up, Keith Potter. Does Will Smith start the rest of the postseason, or will the Dodgers still do a Rortvedt Smith platoon?
I think at this point, like, if Will Smith is ready to go, might as well just start him. I don't know. At this point, I just feel like he looks good, and why wouldn't you just go with him?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they put him in the game anyway, and it's not like, you know, Rortvedt is doing anything at the plate to really warrant him being there, other than him, like, you know, being a good catcher behind the plate. If Will Smith is good enough to go, might as well just start him, right?
I think you lock it in for Will Smith to start game 3. He looked great with the bat tonight, and as long as he's not dealing with any pain, I think they're going to have him in the lineup. It'll be kind of like the Freddie Freeman situation last October, where it's a game-by-game basis, and if they can sneak a few Rortvedt starts in there, potentially on back-to-back nights, I think they do it. But the biggest saga that we're going to deal with this offseason is, do they go with Dalton Rushing or Ben Rortvedt for 2026? That's what I'm going to grab my popcorn for.
I don't know. Do you feel like Rushing has value as a backup catcher? That's the question.
You're talking about internally or on the trade market?
No, internally, like on this Dodgers team. Like, do they view him as a backup catcher? Because that is the only way he's going to play on this Dodgers team. Because otherwise, you might as well see what is available out there on the trade market to see if you can bring in something else. You know, an outfielder, let's say.
Yep. No, right there with you. Yeah. It's pointless to keep a guy that might have a lot of trade value as a backup catcher, especially when a guy like Rortvedt is winning over that pitching staff. And you don't really need a good backup catcher to go far. You just need someone that the pitching staff likes throwing to at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens. Final thoughts, Jake. Anything else you want to quickly touch upon?
I was just pulling up Andy Pajez's numbers so far in the postseason. Yeah, it's as bad as I thought it was. He's 1 for 17. Looks like he's kind of pressing up there, just not really giving quality at bats. There was a at bat tonight where he clearly, if he just lets one go, it's a walk and he's on base, and he is just kind of swinging out of his shoes. And there was another moment where he could have, knocked in a sac fly, and, thankfully Will Smith came up with a clutch 2-out hit, but he has been Andy Pajas has been really struggling.
He's batting 8th for a reason most nights, and it is because he's struggling. But fortunately, the Dodgers haven't needed Andy Pajas so far in October to go far. But yeah, that strikeout or that weak pop-up, whatever it was that was right before Will Smith, that was bad. You cannot have a bad out like that. Fortunately, Will Smith bailed out his ass. Otherwise, we probably lose the game if Will Smith doesn't drive in those 2 runs, because we needed those runs badly. This bullpen desperately needed all the runs they could get.
Yeah,
Four was enough tonight.
We needed those runs. And that's actually a pretty good segue to bring up this stat, which I sent you, Kevin, from Sarah Langs. She said the Dodgers have scored at least 4 runs in 13 consecutive postseason games. That's tied with the 1970-71 Orioles for the longest such streak in postseason history. That's the recipe. Score 4 runs and you win, because this starting staff is the best it's ever been. So that's incredible. 13 postseason games in a row, they're scoring 4 runs. That's amazing.
Yes. Bill Plaschke, this tweet came up randomly, and I'm like, you need to chill out, dude. When you consider their beautiful fielding, their smart hitting, and their overpowering pitching, tonight might have been one of the greatest Dodgers playoff games ever. I don't know if I would go ever, but yeah,
I don't know.
It was a nice win.
It was a nice win. I don't know if ever. I mean, it certainly was hairy at the end. I mean, it wasn't a comfortable win, let's say, but yeah, it was a great win to go up 2-0 in a best of 5 series. That's just incredible.
Trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to cover real quick, but no, I think that's it. My off the wall question for you real quick is, what is your prediction for what LeBron James announces tomorrow?
Why do I think it's some sort of promotional, like, commercial thing? Like, well, I feel like it's something like that, right? It's going to be some sort of maybe brand deal or something. I mean, what do you think it could be? Like, he's asking for a trade? Like, no. I mean, what?
No.
What decision does he have to make?
I think he's going to announce that 2025 to 2026 is his last season as a player. I think it's the retirement tour. I think it's the retirement tour. He didn't sign an extension with the Lakers. I don't think he wants to uproot his life to another city. I think he's come to terms that he's played enough years now, and he's not going to go the Kershaw route, obviously, where Kershaw didn't want to make the season about him. But I think LeBron James is going to announce his retirement. So obviously I'm putting myself in a position where this could age terribly, and people can pull that audio if I'm wrong. But I think that's what we're going to see. We'll see what happens.
I mean, other than him announcing that this is his last season, or him announcing some sort of new brand deal or whatever the case is, I don't know what else it could be. I mean, so maybe you're right, Kevin.
All right. Well, this is the Incline Dodgers podcast. If you're listening on the audio feed, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, drop a comment below and let us know your prediction of what happens in Game 3 of the NLDS. The Dodgers have an opportunity to sweep the Philadelphia Phillies, and this would be just sweet, sweet revenge for 08, 09. Let's make 2025 our time. And